North Korea Gyodongdo Haeju Economic Corridor. 71. Central Bridge of the West Sea Special Zone for Peace and Cooperation. Creating the miracle on the Gyodong River. North Korean Workers' Party. Can do a market economy. Building just a 5 kilometers bridge will create a massive inter-Korean economic zone worth $5 billion annually. The distance from the northern tip of Gyodong Island to Haeju in South Hwanghae Province is only 10 to 15 kilometers. Gyodong Island is located at the confluence of the Gyodong River, formed by the merger of the Han and Imjin Rivers, and the estuaries of the Yesong River to the north. It faces South Hwanghae Province across the Demilitarized Zone. Separated by this narrow sea, to the south lies the world's highest density manufacturing cluster, the west coast of Gyeonggi Province's automotive parts, electronics, and semiconductor supplier belt, while to the north are a well-educated and orderly workforce and undeveloped industrial land. What is more decisive is the fact that, according to South Korea's National Land Development Plan through 2020, the West Coast Expressway is planned to be extended past Gyodong Island toward Haeju City in Hwanghae Province. In other words, this economic corridor concept is not entirely new, but is a concept that has already been officially included in South Korea's National Land Plan. The most important precedent for this initiative is contained in the document officially agreed upon by the South and North at the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit. In this agreement, the South and the North agreed to establish a special zone for peace and cooperation in the West Sea, encompassing the Haeju region and surrounding waters. The establishment of a special zone in the Haeju region creates significant economic synergy in its relationship with Kaesong and Incheon. At the time, the South Korean Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries also prepared a concrete implementation plan. It announced that Haeju Port would be developed in stages by 2015 to support the smooth handling of cargo produced in the Kaesong Industrial Complex, and the future Haeju Industrial Complex, expanding to 8 berths, including 2 container berths, with a cargo handling capacity of 4.8 million tons. Regarding funding for the development of Haeju Port, we considered a method in which port development infrastructure is established, using government funds, such as the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, and then the operation rights are transferred to the private sector for a certain period. This agreement was completely suspended following the shooting death of a tourist at Mount Kumgang in 2008, but the design itself remains a valid blueprint to this day. Gyodong Bridge officially opened on July 1, 2014, connecting Gyodong Island and Gangwon Island. Gangwon Island is already connected to Gimpo City via Gangwon Bridge and Choji Bridge, and expressways from Gimpo to Seoul and Incheon are fully established. In other words, it is possible to reach Gyodongdo from Gangseogu in Seoul or Seogu in Incheon by car in approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes. Additional connectivity is also underway in the Incheon area. Of the entire 14.6 kilometer section of the Yeongjongdo Gangwado Peace Road, the first phase project, the Yeongjongdo-Sindo Bridge, is scheduled to open in May 2026, and the construction of the second phase, the 11.4 kilometers Sindo-Ganghwado Bridge, is also being pursued as a long-term project. Incheon City expects that designating the southern part of Gangwon Island as an economic free zone will increase business feasibility. Due to its geographical influence, Haeju City has seen early development in commerce and industry, and in 1973, as Haeju Port was expanded from a military port into an international trade port, it became one of North Korea's 9 major industrial zones. Major industries include construction materials, chemicals, machinery, metals, shipbuilding, daily necessities, clothing, glass, and ceramics, and the cement industry, which uses abundant high-quality limestone as a raw material, is particularly representative. Haeju Port faces the constraint that it must secure water depth by dredging sand from the estuary area to function properly as a harbor. The true value of the Gyodongdo-Haeju connection lies not just in the north, but in its combination with the existing manufacturing agglomeration in the south. Looking at the major manufacturing hubs on the Korean side, concentrated within a 100 kilometers radius, the Pyeongtaek-Hwaseong automotive cluster includes Hyundai Kia Motors, headquarters and factories, Samsung SDI and SK On battery factories, and thousands of automotive parts suppliers the Incheon. Seogu and Namdong Industrial Complex includes automotive parts. Electronics and machinery, the Ansan Sihong Banwol Sihwa Industrial Complex, includes small and medium-sized precision machinery, metals, and electronic components, the Haeju. LCD and semiconductor cluster includes LG Display's Haeju, factory and related suppliers, and the Gimpo Logistics and Manufacturing Complex is all located within a 1 to 2 hour radius of Gyodong Island. The common problems of these clusters are rising labor costs, a shortage of factory sites, and manufacturing costs higher than those in China and Vietnam. The Gyodong Island Haeju connection provides a physical pathway for these clusters to drastically reduce manufacturing costs by dividing labor with North Korea's low-wage workforce. The shortest distance from the northern end of Gyodong Island to the coast of Yeonbaek County, South Hwanghae Province, is about 3 to 5 kilometers. If civilian use of this neutral waters is permitted following the denuclearization agreement, bridge construction can begin. Phase 1 of the Gyodongdo Yeonbaek County North Bank Bridge is approximately 5 kilometers long. Featuring 4 lanes in each direction and concurrent railway use, the estimated construction cost is approximately 1 to 1.5 trillion won, with a construction period of 3 to 4 years. Phase 2 of the Yeonbaek County Haeju City Connecting Road involves the construction of a new road of approximately 35 kilometers, or the expansion and paving of existing roads in South Hwanghae Province. Phase 3 of the Haeju-Kaesong Connecting Road utilizes the existing road network in South Hwanghae Province, spans approximately 80 kilometers, and connects to the Gyeonggi Expressway system. Once the Gyodongdo Haeju Economic Corridor bridge connection route is completed, the travel time by vehicle from Gangseogu, Seoul, Gimpo Ganghwado Gyodongdo Bridge Yeonbaek Haeju or the entire Kaesong route will be approximately 2 hours 30 minutes to 3 hours. Although this is longer than the existing travel time of 1 hour 30 minutes from downtown Seoul to the Kaesong Industrial Complex, it is a sufficiently practical distance for parts truck operations. Let's examine the Inter-Korean Manufacturing Division of Labor structure between the Haeju Special Economic Zone and the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The structure involves South Korean factories handling design, core components, and quality control, while North Korean factories in Haeju and Kaesong are responsible for assembly, processing, and secondary components. The core concept is to replace the International Division of Labor currently practiced in China and Vietnam with an Inter-Korean Division of Labor. This is the most promising sector for the Automotive Parts Division of Labor model. Hyundai Kia Motor suppliers in Pyeongtaek and Hwaseong can choose to relocate their production bases, currently dispersed across China and India, to Haeju or operate them in parallel. The Korean factories are responsible for precision mold manufacturing, core electronic components such as ECUs and sensors, and final quality inspections. The Haeju factory is responsible for injection molding and press processing, simple assembly of sheets, interior materials, and wiring harnesses, and painting and surface treatment. Finished, semi-finished products can be delivered to the main factory in Pyeongtaek within 2 to 3 hours via the Gyodongdo Yeonbaek Bridge. Wiring harnesses, which act as the blood vessels of an automobile, are difficult to automate and therefore rely heavily on manual labor. As a result, most of these materials are currently produced in China or Southeast Asia and imported. However, if production were carried out in Haeju and Kaesong, logistics time could be reduced from several days to just a few hours. Currently, Hyundai Motor Group's annual procurement volume for wiring harnesses alone amounts to trillions of won, and the mere shift of production to Haeju for this item would generate hundreds of millions of dollars in annual foreign currency revenue for North Korea. This is a division of labor model for electronic components and displays. The structure involves producing panels at the LG display factory in Haeju and handling module assembly, specifically the combination of backlights and cover glass in Haeju. Round-trip logistics are possible, where semi-finished products are transported via the existing agreed direct sea route between Incheon and Haeju, or the Gyodongdo Bridge assembled in Haeju, and then the finished products are transported back to Haeju and Incheon via the Gyodongdo Bridge. Hundreds of small and medium-sized electronic parts companies in the Ansan Sihong Banwolsi Chemical Industrial Complex can reduce costs through processing outsourcing contracts with the Haeju factory. There is also a division of labor model for textiles, clothing, and footwear. This model has already been proven in the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The Haeju Special Economic Zone differentiates itself from the Kaesong Industrial Complex by specializing in different industries. It is a division of roles structure where Kaesong advances into precision electronics, machinery, and automotive parts, while Haeju attracts new OEMs for textiles, clothing, shoes, and bags. The Export Processing Zone model, which involves importing fabrics via the direct Incheon-Haeju route, sewing in Haeju, and exporting to Incheon port, is designed to be operational in the shortest possible time. A division of labor model for food and agricultural product processing is also possible. South Hwanghae Province is North Korea's largest rice-producing region. After denuclearization, it is possible for South Korean food companies such as CJ Cheiljedang, Nongshim, and Orion to establish food processing plants in Haeju to process North Korean agricultural products as raw materials, and then export them after negotiating the labeling of origin as South Korean. Logistics for importing processed food to Incheon port via the direct route from Haeju port to Incheon can be immediately implemented with current technology. This is a design plan for the logistics system of the Gyodongdo Haeju Kaesong Triangular Corridor. Logistics flow along 3 routes within this triangular corridor. The first is the land route via the Gyodongdo Bridge. Parts and materials are transported via the bridge to be delivered to the factory in Haeju, while finished processed products are shipped out via the bridge. Based on round-trip cargo truck operations, 2 to 3 trips per day are possible, and this route enables the fastest response to delivery deadlines. The second is the direct shipping route between Incheon and Haeju. This is a route where the passage of civilian vessels directly through Haeju was already agreed upon in the 2007 Inter-Korean Agreement. With a distance of approximately 4 to 6 hours for container ships, it is suitable for bulk cargo such as raw materials and finished goods. The third is the Gyeonggi Line Railway and the Haeju Branch Line. There are plans to construct the Gyeonggi High-Speed Railway, extending from Seoul through Kaesong and Haeju to Sariwon, Pyongyang, and Sinuiju. If this railway connection is realized, it will be possible to link the Kaesong Industrial Complex, the Haeju Special Economic Zone, and Incheon Port into a single railway logistics network. It is also necessary to devise strategies that pursue the best interests for North Korea. From North Korea's perspective, the core value of the Haeju Kaesong Division of Labor Corridor lies in its significantly larger area compared to the Kaesong Industrial Complex and its independent maritime outlet, Haeju Port. While the Kaesong Industrial Complex was structured to be entirely dependent on South Korean capital, the Haeju Special Economic Zone can design a dual revenue structure based on both South Korean capital and exports to third countries via Haeju Port. The negotiations are structured so that the construction costs for transportation infrastructure, including bridges, roads, and ports, are financed by the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund or International Development, financial institutions ADB, and the World Bank, while North Korea collects tolls and port usage fees after completion. Wages are $100 to $150 per month, which is 40 to 50% of the level in Vietnam, but the existing Kaesong Industrial Complex model is maintained, in which the North Korean authorities allocate and control the number of employees and working hours, and the state collects 30 to 40% of the wages as taxes. By operating the Haeju Special Economic Zone as a separate legal entity from the Kaesong Industrial Complex, risks are diversified to enable both to operate independently. This is the best strategy for North Korea to prevent the weakening of negotiating power resulting from a single dependency structure. The Gyodongdo Haeju Kaesong Industrial Complex West Sea Economic Corridor signifies not merely the simple resumption of operations at the Kaesong Industrial Complex, but the formation of an integrated manufacturing ecosystem along the west coast of the Korean peninsula that connects the manufacturing belt of Gyeonggi Province with the labor force and land of South Hwanghae Province. The Incheon Port Authority analyzed that the construction of the Nampo Outer Port and the Haeju Gangneung Port is necessary, as the full-scale commencement of inter-Korean economic cooperation is expected to generate cargo volume in industrial complexes such as Haeju Gangneung, Pyongyang, Nampo, and Sinuiju, in addition to the Kaesong Industrial Complex. If denuclearization is realized, this corridor has the potential to form an inter-Korean manufacturing ecosystem, with an annual production of over 5 billion within 10 years. Exceeding 10 times the maximum annual production of the Kaesong Industrial Complex, $560 million, the starting point is a single bridge spanning a mere 10 kilometers of sea separating Gyodong Island and Haeju. These are the infrastructure and operational plans for belt activation. Establish a north-south mobility integrated logistics hub on Gyodong Island. Construct a smart highway center on Gyodong Island. We will integrate the management of CKD parts coming from the south and parts produced in the north, and ensure a congestion-free logistics flow through a real-time customs clearance system. We are establishing the Haeju Green Mobility Exclusive Industrial Complex. A large-scale automobile-only complex will be established near Haeju Port. As an energy solution, stable power will be supplied by connecting offshore power cables along the Incheon Bridge line on Yeongjong Island, Korea, or by constructing an LNG combined cycle power plant utilizing Korean technology within the Haeju Special Economic Zone. We will establish the West Coast Integrated Economic Arbitration Center as a legal safeguard. We will set up an independent judicial body on Gyodong Island to protect corporate property rights even in the event of political conflicts, by having a committee composed of international arbitration experts resolve disputes, rather than relying on South Korean or North Korean courts. We will encourage the participation of investors from global parts manufacturers such as Bosch and Continental. Once this belt is completed, it will mark a second leap forward for the Korean automotive industry. Cost reductions will secure a cost competitiveness of approximately 20–30% or more compared to Chinese parts. Supply stability will enable the possession of an independent production base free from geopolitical risks, such as the U.S.-China conflict. Not only does it create jobs, but small and medium-sized parts manufacturers in South Korea can revitalize through production bases in North Korea instead of going out of business, while their headquarters gain the capacity to hire more high-value-added R&D personnel. This corridor is not merely a road, but a symbolic infrastructure for inter-Korean economic integration, with the construction of the Gyeonggi-Gyodongdo Bridge serving as the first gateway. When combined with the previously discussed division of labor for automotive parts in Nampo Waudo or Kaesong Haeju, the entire West Coast can function as a single supply chain cluster. Next time, we will talk about Pyongyang Unjong High-Tech Development Zone. Thank you.